Well, whether this will have any impact on the American election is difficult to determine, but whatever else might be said about Donald Trump, he seems willing to talk to people. And now he has brokered a deal last week to establish full diplomatic relations between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. Now, remember when Donald Trump became president, all sorts of alarmist conclusions were drawn about his diplomatic skills or lack of. Then in 2018, he recognised Jerusalem as Israel's capital and moved the US embassy there. Doomsayers forecast a Middle East firestorm led by the Arab states. Well, this deal proves that, along with much else, a part of the Trump derangement syndrome, where everything Trump does must be bad, and criticism of Trump, again, is way off the mark. Just a pause here, by the way, about the United Arab Emirates. An emirate is not a nation state. It's basically a political territory. The United Arab Emirates is the sovereign state right there on the Persian Gulf. And of the 7 emirates, the ones that you're familiar with, Abu Dhabi, Dubai and Sharjah, Abu Dhabi is the capital. The United Arab Emirates is the federation, a bit like Australia, with its separate states. However, this is a very significant development because there have been unrelenting global efforts to isolate Israel. This is the most significant diplomatic move since 1994 with Jordan. And it's clear that these major Arab states, even with the Palestinian issue unresolved, care little about the claptrap of anti-Israel campaigns, such as boycotts and divestment and sanctions. And needless to say, the ink was barely dry when the leader of Fatah, formerly the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, accused the UAE of unforgivable treachery. I think the conclusion you can draw from this is that Palestinian leaders are out of touch with the modern Arab states, and this Trump deal is big time, confirming Washington is standing by its long-time allies in the Middle East rather than follow the Barack Obama line, doing a nuclear deal with Iran. Can you believe it? Well, one man who knows this scene backwards is the former ambassador to Israel and now the federal Liberal member for Wentworth, Dave Sharma, and he's on Skype for us. Dave, thank you for your time and your scholarship. How important is this?
Good evening, Alan. This is a hugely significant deal. I mean, Israel has only concluded 3 peace treaties, if you like, or normalisation agreements with Arab states, with Egypt in 1979, with Jordan in 1994, and now this one with the United Arab Emirates. So it is a watershed moment in the Middle East, and I think it speaks to a strategic alignment that's been underway for some time where Israel and the Gulf Arab states, the Gulf Arab monarchies have seen interests converge, and particularly their shared concern over Iran's nuclear program and Iran's regional ambitions. And as a result of those concerns, they've grown closer together. And I think this agreement formalises a lot of what was already happening behind the scenes and under the table, but helps bring it out into the open.
Absolutely.
And to normalise it.
Dave, in your judgment, will other Gulf states follow?
I would expect so, Alan, yes. I mean, the United Arab Emirates is the most modern and progressive of the Arab states, the Gulf Arab states, but they would have consulted closely with the Saudis in particular, but also some of the other neighbouring states of the Gulf, and I expect that they'll be taking the water, seeing what the reaction is to this from the domestic forces on the street.
Dave, for the Democrats, the lefties in America, they must be mad as all hell. It's a nightmare for them that Trump has been able to secure this achievement.
Well, it is a big achievement for President Trump and the administration. There's no watering that down at all. I think this is quite a significant diplomatic achievement for him and for his administration.
Dave, you talked about Iran and its nuclear ambition. Surely now this diplomatic deal between Israel and the UAE gives very significant political muscle in that region to deal with Iran.
I think it does. I think it formalises an alliance, if you like, that has been forming for some time. And it will allow Israel to now communicate openly, not only with the UAE, which is just across the Persian Gulf from Iran, of course, but also through the UAE with the other Gulf Arab states, and particularly Saudi Arabia. And this will allow them to coordinate policies, to exchange information, to share security technology and things like that. And this is a formidable coalition, if you like, to deter Iran from some of its adventurism in the region.
Just one final thing. I mean, is there a little problem here that the agreement does require Israel to take off the table the annexation of land on the West Bank? Now, Netanyahu went to the last election promising some level of Israeli annexation of some amount of West Bank territory. that would have encouraged Jewish settlers to vote for him. So is there a bit of a problem there for Netanyahu?
Well, Netanyahu's a masterful politician,
Yes.
and I'm sure he'll find a way out of this. He's gone to the last 3 elections promising this. I think this time he'll be able to point to something that he's got instead of that, which is of really of immense strategic value to Israel. So he's a great survivor of Israeli politics, and I expect he'll survive another day yet.
Good on you. Good to talk to you, Dave. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for your scholarship. Hope we can talk to you more often.
Thanks so much, Alan.
That's the Liberal member for the seat of Wentworth in Sydney, and of course for Donald Trump, far better than his critics give him credit for.